Welcome back to the channel, everybody. How you doing? I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here. These are my top disappointments of 2024. I have one book series and then I have just 3 other books and then that's it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them and then go from there. Now, does this mean that they are bad books? No. All I'm saying is I just didn't enjoy these books as much as I was hoping to, compared to like how other people liked it. I always try to go in and I want to experience what other people experience while reading certain books, and sadly these just never really hit me right in the core like other books have over this year. So number 4 is going to be Tomy. I read Uzumaki last October and I really liked Uzumaki. Now Tomy, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I still think Tomy is really good. I just didn't feel like it was as good as Uzumaki, and then I learned that Uzumaki was written after Tomy. Like, I think Tomy is his first work, so it kind of makes sense where the story progressed compared to Uzumaki and Tomy, but to me it still just was really underwhelming, and I think I just had my expectations way too high for this book, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I can't do anything about it. It's just, to me, I was a little upset and disappointed with that. Does that mean I'm not going to read any more of his works? No. I plan on reading Gyro, I think it's called, next October, so hopefully that book will go back up in the rankings. Like I said though, Tomy, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think it still was fun to read. It just felt very repetitive in a lot of angles, and maybe that's the whole point of that book, is it's just very repetitive. I just wasn't really feeling it compared to other books I was reading, so that's why I was like a little bit of a disappointment. I actually went in there expecting it to be like a 5 the whole time compared to being a 4. I expected it to be on the same level of Uzumaki, and it just wasn't there. So another one for a disappointment is Clockwork Orange. I didn't have high expectations going into Clockwork Orange. Well, the only thing that really bothered me the most is, well, the way that it was written. It was really hard to read it. It's not as deep as I was expecting, and yet again, maybe it's just because the way it was written, it really threw me off as a reader. This book also, I gave it a 4 out of 5 for a rating, but I didn't have high expectations going into it. And with that being said, I still enjoyed it, but it wasn't too like groundbreaking. Like some other books I have in my favorite reads this year definitely left a huge impact on me, to the point where I was like, wow, this is such a great read. This didn't feel like that. It felt like it was like, oh, this is pretty good, but is it really worth like a higher rating? Honestly, I feel like if I revisited this book, I'd probably give it like a 3.5 or 3 out of 5 if I revisited it. Now, will I reread it in a few years, and maybe my whole persona might change after reading it? Maybe. Or will it just make it worse for me? That's the problem about rereading certain books, and you get to the point where it's like, this wasn't nearly as good as I thought. And that's just happens sometimes. But yeah, with Clockwork Orange, there was just moments I just didn't like. There was a lot of things that happened in that book that I didn't even know what was going on, and you have to like use like a dictionary stuff to actually figure out what is being said and everything. I had to like look up YouTube videos of what is actually going on and what like some of the language is going on, and I just didn't really like it, and I felt like it was just more of an overcommitment for a book to really understand it, and I just didn't want to read it. Honestly, I wasn't that big of a fan of it. It kind of sucks because I'm someone who likes to read very deep, thought-provoking books sometimes. So Clockwork Orange was a disappointment for me. So this is going to be one where I feel like a lot of people might click off, because when I made a review of this earlier, I lost like 5 subscribers from this video, so I was actually really surprised. But I also gained like 5, so it really equaled out. And as Oathbringer, that book was a huge disappointment for me. I really liked Word of Radiance, but then I read Oathbringer, felt like such a letdown. There was a lot of elements in this that I was looking forward to. I was excited to see Dalinar's backstory, just to seeing what truly happened. Why is this memory like gone? And I'm not gonna lie, it was a huge letdown. Going into it after I finished it, I was excited. Well, I wasn't really excited to read Rhythm of War. I kind of just was like, meh with Rhythm of War. I started listening to Rhythm of War, and oh man, I DNF'd it. I think I was only like 10 or 15 chapters in, and I kind of DNF'd it because I was just sitting there. I'm like, I'm not feeling this. If I did not like Oathbringer, I might not even like Rhythm of War, because everyone who I was hearing talk about Rhythm of War was like, this is the weakest book of the 4. And I was like, oh my gosh. If I didn't like Oathbringer, am I gonna like Rhythm of War? And then I was like, if I don't like Rhythm of War, am I gonna like Wind and Truth? And to me, it just is not worth it reading all these books if I'm not happy with it. So I decided Oathbringer, I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5. I just was not feeling it as much as I was hoping for, especially because Words of Radiance was so good that I expected Oathbringer to be just as good, and just wasn't. So I had to give it a 3 out of 5 rating, and it was a disappointment. So this is clearly the biggest disappointment of the year. I wanted to read this fantasy series. I wanted to get it done. And the goal was, at the beginning of this year, was to read this and finish the Aragon series and finish Stormlight. We'll be caught up to Stormlight. Well, yeah, finish Stormlight, but I didn't finish 2 of them. But I did finish this one. And this is the big disappointment, and that is The Wheel of Time. So I finished The Wheel of Time this year. I didn't do New Spring or whatever, the novella. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to read it. I did not want to. It's just, no, I didn't want to read it. I was done. I'm going to make a video about Wheel of Time in the future, but I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit of my thoughts for this. It's 14 books, and I spent almost every month this year finishing it. I think I started off with Fires of Heaven, and I finished with Memory of Light last month. And I'm not going to lie, I just was so disappointed. After I finished it, I was hoping when I would finish The Wheel of Time, I would feel so good and feel like something, just the gods came down, just a ray of light is just fanning me, and I'm like, oh, like that. But I didn't feel any of that. I kind of just sat back. I'm like, huh, this is it? Was it worth it? And honestly, between you and me, I don't think it was worth it. Like, it's such a long journey, and it's nice to say, hey, I finally finished it, but at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, it was so long, and there was just so much of it that should not have been in this book. Actually, in the series in general, I just felt like it was just so drawn out where I just couldn't commit to it. There's so many times where I wanted to DNF it and just quit the series, but in my head, I was like, you're almost there, you're almost there, you're almost there. So I kept committing to it. And I guess I could have said the same thing about Stormlight and about the Aragon series. But with the Aragon series, I don't know. As soon as I opened up Eldest, I just decided, no. It's not like I disliked Aragon, because I gave it like a 4 out of 5, but I don't know what it was. I just was not feeling Eldest. So I just didn't read it. And I think I'm going to try and read more of the Aragon series later. Maybe one of them a year. Who knows? But Stormlight, I couldn't commit to Stormlight either. It's just, I think Oathbringer was such a letdown. When you hear the responses of Rhythm of War for Oathbringer, it kind of makes you so you don't want to read it. But the difference is like with Wheel of Time is like after the slog, everyone's like, this is where it's really, really good. So I was like, all right, we can commit, and they weren't wrong. Like Knife of Dreams is good, and then of course the last 3 are really good. But at the same time, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much to get to Wheel of Time, to get to those really good moments. That's really hard to bear it. I struggled with it a lot. And that's why, to me, I was just like, wow, these are some disappointments. And who knows, maybe the books I have planned out in 2025 won't be as much disappointments. I didn't ever thought I would make a video like this, but I sat back, I'm like, I'm gonna make some disappointment videos, because honestly, I haven't done one of those yet, so we're gonna do that. And those are a couple of my disappointments this year. I probably had a couple more, but I figured these were pretty solid. Oathbringer and the Wheel of Time alone were disappointments. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. What do you guys have for disappointments? Do you guys agree with what I said for my disappointments? Or do you think I'm totally wrong for having Oathbringer and the Wheel of Time series as my disappointments? I would love to know down below, of course. And, of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay humble, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay weird.